Thanks so much for joining us on our very first Get Psyched episode. Hopefully it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
So we're going to kick off with asking you a couple of questions and explore some F words for you. So we're going to kick off with, how are you feeling right now?
How am I feeling? This is something that has probably been changing day to day, even, within the day, hour to hour. I feel that I've felt every sort of emotion that you can feel across the spectrum. But today I'm actually feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty okay with everything, but I've definitely been feeling a little bit restless. I think that, that those emotions have been going up and down, and it has landed on feeling restless more often than not. I think because I'm in a quite small apartment, and I've been very conscious of isolating and obviously doing our work from home and everything just being in this small space. It's leaving me a little bit restless sometimes. But for today, I'm actually feeling pretty good. It is 9 a.m., so we'll see what's to come.
What the day has in store.
Yeah.
So our next F word is, what are you failing at the moment?
What am I failing at? I was thinking about this. I think that I've been trying really hard to sort of meet myself where I'm at every day, and in that, allowing myself to sort of forgive myself when I feel that I am failing. So I think that's something that I've been really trying to practice and even pass on to a lot of my clients when I speak to them. But I have been failing a little bit at my admin side of things for our work. So there is that dreaded admin side of notes and paperwork that comes with our work, that it's the less glamorous side. And I'm not good at the admin side even outside of this time, and so right now I think that's really been amplified. So I'm not too much on top of that, but I think it's okay. I've been telling myself, forgiving myself for not being on top of it right now, and maybe feeling like I'm failing on it a little bit.
And last one, what are you finding out about yourself?
Finding out about myself that I'm a lot more of an introvert than I thought. So I think I'm a very social person. I love, my friends, family, being out there doing social things. But I think because myself, I've really enjoyed a lot of this time of being in isolation. I've really sort of reassessed and thought that maybe I'm a lot more of a homebody and an introvert than I thought. And maybe some of the things that, my life entailed prior to COVID could have actually been bringing me some anxiety. So that's been, a bit of a revelation, actually.
Yeah, that's interesting. A little bit of a sort of a deeper dive into your sort of innate personality traits.
Definitely. It's been nice.
Cool. All right, so all of you guys who've just joined us, we're doing Get Psyched, where we're joined by one of our amazing Indigo practitioners, and this morning we have the incredible Indigo Psychologist Rashida joining us. So now we're going to get into our big juicy topic of the day, which we got from our Indigo community on Instagram. And today's topic, I think, is one that's going to resonate with a lot of people at this point in time. And the question is simply this: am I doing enough? I think that a lot of us are struggling with, adjusting to living a different kind of existence where we're doing things differently, and we're not operating kind of life in the same sort of ways. So what would you say to someone who is feeling like they don't know whether they're doing enough right now?
Mm-hmm. I have been hearing this quite a lot, from so many different people. And what I say is that, how do we know what is enough during a time that we have never experienced before? So considering the situation that we're in, I think doing enough is actually just attempting to allow ourselves to feel what it is that we're feeling right then and there. And I think the question of am I doing enough is coming from potentially a place of comparing where you're at with where you see other people are at. I think that we live in a world right now where it's so accessible. Everyone else's lives and what they're doing and where they seem to be at is so accessible, whether that's through social media or just because, you know, we're talking about it a little bit more. And so when we have that access, we assume that what we see, whether it's through social media or when we have a conversation with someone, is a complete whole picture of where they're at and what their life is. And I think it's very easy to forget that, you know, this is just one sliver, one little part of that person's life and where they may feel that they're at. And I think this whole idea of this question of am I doing enough really stems from a lot of that comparison, because if we don't feel that we're doing enough, we have to feel on some level that there isn't enough, that there is, you know, someone out there that's maybe doing more than us, or there's someone or something out there that is enough. And so that's when we start feeling, you know, that negative thought pattern and inner critic come up, that we mustn't be doing enough. So I really just, you know, remind that when we see where someone else is at during this time, that might be where they're at for that day, but that might not be where they're at for the entirety of this whole situation. And if you're feeling like on any given day that you're not doing enough, you know, maybe it's a day to take a little bit of that rest and practice really attempting to sort of forgive yourself for feeling that you're not doing enough.
I also get the feeling that a lot of people sort of using that, I guess, mind frame, get concerned that they're going to allow themselves down this slippery slope of laziness, where essentially they do less and less and less and try to make the excuse, oh, I'm just, you know, giving my body what it needs today, or I'm just taking that break today, and concerned that it's going to run away from them, and soon they're just going to be a lump sitting on the couch, you know, not doing absolutely anything at all. So what would you suggest in that instance?
Exactly right. This is the case for a lot of people, that they feel that if they open the door to anything, whether it's that, you know, day that they're not feeling motivated and they just want to veg out, or even if it's an emotion that they're not comfortable with feeling, and people get worried that if they open the door to that, it's going to lead down that path, like you said, of never being able to kind of find their way back out of that. And, you know, that I understand that fear, and that's a real fear that, you know, people can have. But I think that we know, you know, research shows us that when we actually allow ourselves to lean in and give in and succumb to some of these emotions or feelings of not feeling motivated, it can't last more than, if it lasts a few days, that's fine, you know, but we are fluctuating all the time. Our emotions, our feelings, what we're thinking is ebbing and flowing continuously. So even if it does last a couple of days, you know, we know that we have practices that we can put in place if we start getting worried that it's kind of stayed past its, you know, past its date. But I think just allowing ourselves to succumb to it a little bit is not, not opening the door to then end up staying in that permanently. And, you know, that is right. A lot of people, I think, fear that if they do even allow themselves to just dip a toe in whatever it is that they're feeling, that it's going to, you know, they're just going to get swallowed up. And in that end up potentially overexerting and, you know, sometimes burning out. I think this whole concept of this question that we're talking about, you know, am I doing enough, can really sort of fuel sometimes the burnout culture or the, you know, exhaustion that a lot of people feel. Because if you're constantly got this thought in your mind that I'm not doing enough, you're going to attempt to overcompensate or do more and more. And then that can really lead to a whole host of other doors opening, which are, you know, feeling exhausted, feeling really low, feeling really confused.
I guess it's, you know, once again, that really daggy word of balance. You know, you've got the one side with overworking and you're prone to burnout, and the other side where, you know, you've just sort of switched off. You're not doing anything. You're not engaging in anything. And people often, I guess, like myself included, feel like it's hard to sit in that middle space. And we kind of we're never in the same place, are we? We're kind of always drifting from side to side, but we worry that, you know, maybe if we are overworkers, we drift too far to the other side and we're scared of that, you know. And maybe the opposite is true too, from sort of people who are a little bit more laid back, go with the flow, and they don't want to sort of put too much on their plate. Another question I've got for you is, so some of us may also have, I guess, like regular routines and habits that we've put in place, likely before all of this kind of happened. Things that, you know, we did to sort of maintain our relationships with our friends and with our family, maintain our physical health, maybe maintain our mental health, allowed us to sort of work and study productively. When we set those baselines in place, I would imagine that now, with all the disruption, people are not able to adhere to those same sort of baseline levels of doing what they thought was enough, or what was previously enough to keep their lives sort of running cohesively. So for those people, what would you suggest? What sort of guidance would you give when people are freaking out, thinking, okay, I'm not able to do my life the way that was working for me before?
Yeah, well, like you said, you know, the things that we've probably put in place to keep that routine going were set for a time that we're not actually in right now. And so they probably were working really great for that time that we were in. And now, because the entire time has changed and the situation has changed, we are going to have to learn to be a little bit, you know, to adjust and adapt that routine to a new lifestyle that we're living in. And that can be really hard, because we know that a lot of these routines that people set up for themselves take a really long time to even become something that you stick to in your life. You know, introducing habits and having routines and schedules and all of these things that you do, they take so long to even, you know, put in place. And so I think for a lot of people, considering they've maybe spent so much time and energy and effort actually formulating this routine, it almost feels really unfair to have to give that up, or to have to adjust it and to have to start again. You know, it can feel really daunting and exhausting to even think, now I've got to figure out a new way of creating new routines and new habits that are going to suit this new lifestyle. And on top of that, you know, we don't know how long we're going to have to create this new routine for, and how much we're going to have to adjust, you know, because things have been changing. Even though we've found ourselves in this new way of living, even within that, it's been changing day to day. You know, the government's been, you know, changing the plans as, you know, as things have rolled out and unfolded. And so that means that we've had to not only just adjust it once, we've had to continue to adjust the routine potentially, and the habits and things like that, to keep ourselves grounded and to find some sort of balance. And so it's like a constant adjustment, a constant change, which is really tiring and really confronting.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely feeling that. So what advice would you give to someone who's really beating themselves up at the moment about feeling like they're just not doing enough?
I would say, you know, if we can practice zooming out, practice, you know, really discovering why it is that you might be feeling like you're not doing enough. So, you know, if you're working with a therapist, that would be a great way, you know, to sort of explore that a little bit more. If not, you know, writing things down of what it is that makes you feel like you're not doing enough, and then attempting to sort of zoom out a little bit and check, you know, is that fair? You know, am I being fair to myself by saying that I'm not doing enough, considering the type of, you know, situation that we're in right now and the way that we're living and what's going on? And usually, you know, if we can really write it and look at it, or talk with someone and have that reflected back to us, we may be able to understand, and sort of with a little bit of perspective, you know, realize that, okay, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair on myself, and maybe I need to, you know, practice a little bit of kindness and forgiveness towards myself in the way that I'm feeling. Also knowing that, you know, it's probably that feeling of am I doing enough is probably also going to be ebbing and flowing. There might be times where it feels a lot more prominent, maybe when you're working and, you know, work ramps up, and the workplace might expect you to still be doing the same amount of work that you were doing prior to this situation. And then during that time, you can become really confused and feel like, well, am I doing enough? Because, you know, that's where that expectation is really muddled up. But noticing when that feeling of am I doing enough is actually arising. So is it arising when you're at work? Is it arising when you're at home? Is it arising in your relationship? Where is it arising? And then what is happening in that situation in itself that's making you feel like you're not doing enough?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because we're asking the question of ourselves and
Yeah.
assuming that, you know, there's some inner wisdom that's getting us to prompt ourselves, I'm not doing enough. You know, what am I not doing enough of? And yet we kind of have to take it that one step deeper, don't we? And then go, let's ask the question of the person, or, you know, the inner voice that's asking us that question.
Exactly. And a lot of these, you know, this idea of am I not doing enough, it comes in so many different forms. You know, it might not formulate as this actual thought of am I doing enough. You know, it can show up in so many different ways. And so, you know, we can sort of trick ourselves sometimes to think like, no, I'm doing great, you know, I've got a handle of this. And then we are, you know, picking an argument with our partner, or we are getting irritated with friends, or we're feeling, you know, all of these things. And then when, you know, at work something's happening, and then if we really sort of join the dots together, it might actually be leading back to this idea of you feeling like you're not doing enough. And that's where it can become a little bit tricky too, where it's good to actually have someone to reflect back on it with, to find out, is it actually all coming down to not feeling like you're doing enough?
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Rashida, dropping all those pearls of wisdom for our Wednesday morning here in Sydney.
Great to be here. It was fun.
It's fun. It's great getting into these sticky issues. And so for those of you who just joined, or maybe just want a little quick recap, we were just talking about the sort of recurring thought and feeling that many of us have, which is am I not doing enough? And some takeaways are, if we're dealing with those sorts of thoughts that are making us feel like we're not contributing or doing enough in our lives right now, and we're feeling down about ourselves, journaling is a great idea. Asking questions about, you know, where those thoughts are arising from, when you're feeling like you're not doing enough, where you feel like you're not doing enough, and also chatting vulnerably with other people. So like Rashida mentioned, to a therapist is awesome. And if you want to chat to one of our amazing Indigo practitioners, you can always hit us up via our DMs, or just to a close friend, someone who's kind of a bit wise and has got a good listening ear. Often, you know, we also learn that we're a lot kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. So sometimes you need to just get those inside voices outside and share them with another person. And someone who loves you and is there for you will often be able to give you a little bit of perspective that's harder to get when you're just inside your own head.
Definitely.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Rashida. It's been awesome. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week.
You too. Thanks, Ash. Bye.